Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. If you'd like to know more about my knitwear designs, please check in the description below. There you will find a link to my Ravelry page where you can see all the patterns I have available for YouTube purchase and knit up for yourself. Also in the description below, you will find a link to the Watch Barbara Knit's Facebook group. It is a place where we can continue the conversations that we start here on YouTube. I love chatting the YouTube comments, but you can't share pictures and everybody loves pictures. So we can keep it going either place. And in the description below, you will find a link to the purpose of this video, which is my new pattern. I am pumped about this new pattern. It is called Every Which Way, W-I-T-C-H. And I'm really excited about this one. I have made a video that a lot of y'all seem to like where I talked about trying to knit and find patterns for variegated yarn, and a lot of people seem to really like variegated yarn, and I love variegated yarn, but finding patterns that work well with variegated yarn, it can be a challenge. So this is a pattern. I mean, of course it works good in solids and everything else, but I wanted to make sure it looked great in variegated yarn. And the reason I wanted it to look great in variegated yarn is because this is part of the Fiber Seed Swifties program, which is a series of patterns that they are commissioning designers to do that only use like one skein of yarn or a smaller amount of yarn and knit up fairly quickly. So that was like my brief. It needed to be relatively easy to knit. It needed to work up fairly quickly. And I was like, and it needs to be variegated because their variegated yarns are absolutely gorgeous. So you're like, stop talking and show off. So here is, I'm going to say one of them because the pattern actually includes instructions for two different shawl shapes. So here is the second version. You will notice they're drastically different color-wise, and so I'm just gonna be all covered up with the yarn. And that is because what this one is a top-down triangle. They are super fun and easy to knit. It involves one stitch marker, and they also lend themselves very well because essentially this is a top-down triangle, but it's two triangles. You have this triangle, here. So you've got one triangle, and then you have a center spine, and you have this other triangle here. And so essentially this is two panels, each of which are triangles that when you put together make a bigger triangle. Then it's fairly simple matter to then take that triangle. You've got one triangle, two triangles, and then add a third triangle and you get what is a 3/4 square shawl. Now, I have little tiny versions of this that might be able to see. These are my swatches to make sure that it will work. So here you go. This is the 3/4 one. And this is the, as you can see, I haven't woven in my ends. This is the just top-down triangle. Now, you will note in these, and the reason why I named this pattern Every Which Way is because I chose to do something a little unusual in this pattern. Now first, variegated yarn. Variegated yarn is hard to match up with lace. It's just the way it is. You can watch my video and I'll link to it and I explain to it to an extent. But what happens is if the lace is really fine and detailed, the color that is in the variegated yarn makes all that detail disappear. Or if it's a super open lace, what happens is there's not enough fabric for you to really see all the different colors because it's pretty much 80%, 90% whole because it's lace. So one of my solutions to that is to do a very bold geometric or a linear lace. And you can see, I'm trying not to move it, you can see the stripes of lace. Now, the way this pattern works is if you think of the constituent triangles, the triangles are actually the laces running in one direction, and instead of mirroring it for the other side, you work it in the same direction, but since the other panel is at a different angle, it makes it look like the lace is going every which way and going all different directions, where in relation to your knitting, it's actually going the same way in every panel. It's just each panel is in a different way. Now, you might be like, I don't understand what you just explained. That's okay, because the instructions are actually super easy to follow. What I have done is when you get the pattern, all of the instructions are written out. There's not a chart for this, so this is fully non-charted. You can work it just from written. And the shawls are broken out in 2 different areas, so you can pick, I'm gonna make the 2-panel shawl or the 3-panel shawl. There are 6 rows that are your setup, your cast on and your initial setup, and then you go into your repeat. And I can tell you the repeat, it's 4 rows long. For both shawls, the repeat is 4 rows long. So this is literally, what, 6, 7, 8, a 10-row pattern. Okay? It is a really easy knit, but I think because the lace is going to every which way, that it gives an impact of being a lot more complex than it actually is. Now, I don't think I've mentioned yet, the name of this color is Witch Witch. And once I got this Witch Witch yarn, we talked about, with the fiber seed, we talked about what colors we wanted to do this in. And since I was going to release this in late September, I'm like, I want to do sort of a Halloween shawl, but I don't want to do like a blatant Halloween shawl. I want to do something that you can knit up and you can wear when you're going trick-or-treating or when you're giving out candy, receiving trick-or-treaters, or however you do this. That you know it's a Halloween shawl, but it's not like really overtly Halloween. It's just magic. And so the name of the color is Witch Witch, and I just could not resist the every which way. You know, you got to forgive me a pun every once in a while. But another thing I wanted to talk about is, so this colorway is called Witch Witch, WHICH, but this color is also called Witch Witch. And you're like, what? Again, this is about magic. This is about things being not what they might seem. It's about illusion. So what it is the fiber seed does something really fun and unique in that she takes a colorway, and by the colorway, we're talking about the individual components. Okay, you're like, Barbara, quit fussing with the shawl. Okay. You take the individual components of the colors that are in the colorway, and she does different dye techniques. So you have these same colors, but they're presented in a different way. This one is called Kaleidoscope, and it's all the colors all jumbled together. This one is called Half Speckle. And so it's like half the skein is a solid color and the other half is speckles. She also has whole speckles and she's got a dipped color. There's a bunch of different techniques that she has, and there are different colors in all of them, but some of the colors jump between them, and it's really cool. And I wanted to see, I've always wondered how the different techniques knitted up, and so that's why I wanted to do this. And it is, I was trying to see, because when I was styling this for the photo shoot, I've never done a three-quarter like this. And it actually wears really nicely because you can pull it all the way around. And you've got this and this let me get it. It's a little warm. You have this and this, but it comes down and then you still have, ooh, can I spin? You still have the piece across the back. So it's got that extra triangle, and that gives you a little bit of extra flexibility in styling. And also I want to make it clear that each of these used one skein. So if you're only doing 2 panels, you're going to get a substantially longer along the spine. So this one, let me scoot back. Ooh, I have a rolly chair. There you can see it's a triangle and it's a good size. And then this one, I might not be very loud anymore. Whoop. You can see it is shorter in the distance it's going to fall down your back, but you've brought a bunch of that yarn up to these points so it'll wrap around the front more. Now I'm going to scoot forward. And again, you can see the shapes in my little samples here, my little swatches. Here you can also see what it would look like in a solid. I think it would look great in solid. It looked great in completely sprinkled or speckled or semi-solid. And you can see really distinctly how the lace goes in different directions. Now, one other thing I would like to mention is that I did not knit both of these shawls. Once I know a pattern's going to work, it's kind of silly for me to knit both when I could be spending that knitting time knitting something new, designing something new. So I have a wonderful, and I have several, but I have wonderful sample knitter knit this version up for me. Thank you very much, Mary Scott. And did a great job, but I wanted to share a story. So I started working on these before the move. And then we moved to Florida. And then we were going to move again. We moved into our permanent home here. And through all these moves, I knew that this was going to have to come out in September, and we moved in August. And one of the things, I have everything in boxes. We still have lots of boxes, but I made sure after Mary Scott sent me this sample, I made sure to keep it in the knitting bag with this one while I was knitting on this one. And I always knew where it was because I didn't want it to accidentally get packed away and lose it. Okay. And then the day came when this one was finished and it was time to block it. And I blocked it, and it was before we were even sleeping on this bed back here. We were sleeping on the guest bed. And so I blocked it on the bed. And then I took the knitting bag that had this and another project I was working on and these and a couple other things. And I just left it sitting on the unmade bed that had my shawl blocking on it, right? Well, another member of my family, and it's not my kid, decided to throw some sheets that needed to be washed on the bed. He did not interfere with my blocking piece. That's wonderful. But then he decided those sheets needed to be washed. And when he picked up the giant ball of sheets, he had my knitting bag. It went in. So my knitting bag went into the wash. And then a little bit later, he comes into the room and he's like, oh my God. And he was so very upset. I didn't yell at him. I didn't even use any bad words. But I was super stressed out. The work in progress that I had completely destroyed. It was a cashmere alpaca silk blend. Don't ever wash that combo. Felted up, world's most expensive felted dryer ball. I had to be cut off the needles. These were in there, and that's why they're a little wrinkled up. But the biggest issue was this. This sample that Mary Scott had beautifully knit for me was in the wash. It was wet. It did not make it into the dryer, and so I then pinned this out on blocking boards and blocked it. And the reason why I'm telling you this whole story is when the Fiber Seed says that these are superwash, that their yarn is superwash, they mean it. this went through the wash. All the pictures you'll see on the Ravelry page, it is post-washing machine. So this went through the wash, and it wasn't even like careful wash, it was sheets wash. It was just in permanent press. So this went through the wash, it got washed, I pulled it out, it was wet, and I blocked it back out, and it looks perfect. So if you're wondering about superwash yarn, I can at least speak to the Fiber Seed Sprout Superwash is super washable. I wouldn't put it in the dryer. Don't do that. But if you need something that can be washable, you're still going to have to block it, especially if it's lace, but it worked. So that is my new shawl, Every Which Way. I hope that y'all like it. You maybe have some variegated yarn, or you could check out the yarn on the Fiber Seed and see how these work up. Definitely click through, find the link in the description below, and click through to the pictures on the Ravelry page, because there are photographs of these with what they looked like in the skein if you were interested, because that's always fun to see. And I hope to see y'all knit this pattern up. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, click that like button, and if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Thank you so much.